Hi, I'm Dr. Philip Macmillan, and thank you for joining me as I continue this journey in COVID 19. My research has always been focused on autoimmunity, and that means where the viral infection or potentially the vaccine triggers the body to recognize a normal protein as being foreign and therefore makes the immune system attack it. And that's been my focus since March 2020. I've been saying the same thing over and over for this period of time. So far, I haven't seen any reason to change my perspective and my expectation. And so, within that framework, it raises an important question, and that's about what is on the horizon. The COVID vaccine lawsuits begin. Well, what really am I talking about? Well, it was just in the news today. This was highlighted in Reuters. You can see here, I'll make the full screen. AstraZeneca facing two London lawsuits over COVID vaccines. This was published on the 23rd of August, 2023, and they are looking at two cases with regards to what was happening with the AstraZeneca vaccine. An important point. You may ask why AstraZeneca, and I'll explain to you in just a few moments. Before I go any further, I'd like to remind you that coming up this weekend, in a few days' time, is our conference, the Post-Vax Long COVID Congress. And you can look out for the link. I've been sharing it. Please register if you can on Eventbrite, or otherwise look out for it on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. We'd love to have you join. These are important topics, and we've put together an international group of speakers to bring you all the latest information that will help to make some of these patterns more logical. So let's get back to the story about these lawsuits. And it's two lawsuits that are occurring in the UK. And you have here, I'll show you the information here. You have here, they're facing two lawsuits. That's AstraZeneca, the company that made one of the COVID-19 vaccines. And this was in relation to the fact that the husband of a woman who died from the vaccine, he is bringing one of the cases. It's Anish Taylor. His wife died in March 2021 after receiving her first dose of the vaccine, and he's filed a product liability claim against AstraZeneca. One of the interesting things is that I'm not sure if he can, because they do have indemnity. And so, in effect, he is probably suing the government in the UK rather than the company. But it will be seen whether or not this can actually occur. What he was focused on was the fact that his wife, she was only 35 at the time, and she died of blood clots in the brain. And this is the story. This was from September 2021. This is the report, but she died actually in March of 2021. And she was, as they say, a healthy mother, fell ill in a week after getting her first coronavirus jab. And again, the principle is that the concern is that they did not have enough information about the risks, and therefore it seems that this is why they're having this product liability challenge. The truth is that this is just the start, and the question you may ask is, why is it only the AstraZeneca? Is it relevant to some of the other parties who have been doing vaccinations across the world? It's possible, but there's a reason why I think AstraZeneca has been highlighted first, and it shows you the complexity of some of the issues that we have in front of us. So we have here a very important document that I can only express to you that this is the kind of information that should have been put out previously. Adverse events following immunization for COVID-19 in Ontario. And this is in December 2020 to August 2023. Really, really important piece of information. And I'll go through some of the details in that in just a few minutes. But this is why I think that there has been a highlight for the AstraZeneca vaccine. When you go into the details of what they had seen in terms of their adverse events, you can see here, this is another page of the document. And what they've highlighted here, this in the green bar here, is where they had, I'll show you again, the green bar here is where they are labeling all of the different vaccines that were used. So on this side here is the Pfizer BioNTech, the original one. And so in Canada or in Ontario, they had a total number of 23 million doses given. And you compare that to the AstraZeneca, the Covishield, that was about 1 million, just over 1 million doses that were given. So the most common vaccine given there was the Pfizer. But when you go down just below that and you look at this area here, in terms of the reporting rate per 100,000 doses of the vaccine, you can see here that it was much higher, 155 compared to 57.7 with the Pfizer BioNTech. And this is probably part of the reason why many countries stopped using the AstraZeneca and focused primarily on using the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines longer term. I think it's important to note that when you actually look at the details, when you compare the AstraZeneca to Pfizer and Moderna, the number, it's almost 4 times higher risk with regards to AstraZeneca than it was with the Pfizer or the Moderna. And so this is part of the reason. I'll show you again so you can see it here. This is where they showed it, put it on full so you can read here. So when they looked at serious reporting rate per 100,000, this is serious cases per 100,000 doses administered. You can see here for Pfizer, it was 3. Here for Moderna, it was 4.1. And here for AstraZeneca, it was 12. So that's 4 times higher than Pfizer. Now you have to remember that at the time, we heard the word safe and effective, but truthfully, it's difficult for anyone to say that without there having been longer term research. And this is a point that I was always making. When you're doing this, it's very important to tell people that we don't know medium and long term. I guess the concern was that if they said that, there would be more hesitation from people, and so therefore you would have less vaccine uptake. That's a political decision as opposed to an informed consent decision. Specifically, the condition that she had died with, and I'm focused primarily on one of the cases, it was thrombosis with thrombocytopenia syndrome, vaccine induced immune thrombotic thrombocytopenia. And it doesn't occur often, but essentially what happens is that the platelets that help to make blood clots, they do 2 things. They increase the risk of bleeding because they don't work as well, and you have an increased risk of clots. So it's a very strange combination. And to date, they said in the Ontario region, they had 21 reports of that. And this is out of just over 1 million cases. And these are usually quite serious cases. So it doesn't mean that these are the only things that happened, but these are the most serious things that have happened. So this is why I think the lawsuits are starting with AstraZeneca. The problem is that I anticipate that this is going to hit the whole industry. And the reason is because I suspect that the kind of complications that you got with AstraZeneca were more visible and earlier. And that was really because of a pattern with regards to the changes that were made with the spike protein. I've got here an image from a recent presentation when I was looking at myocarditis. So this was interesting for me to find. And what I've shown here is the AstraZeneca spike protein versus the Pfizer. And this is also Moderna spike protein. And what they did is that this is almost a replica of the vaccine of the viral spike protein. In this one here, they made a slight adjustment by adding in a few proline amino acids here so that it didn't bind in the same way to ACE2, the entry receptor. Because as I said, in severe COVID-19, as far as I was concerned, the research pointed to the fact that severe disease was about the viral spike protein binding to ACE2. So the obvious question would be, if you then replicated the vaccine spike protein in exactly the same way, would it do the same thing and trigger a similar kind of autoimmune response? And that's what I think you see happening with the AstraZeneca vaccine because of that, and also I think the J&J vaccine. But because of this change in the spike protein by Pfizer and Moderna, you don't see as much autoimmunity with regards to the side effects. So that's good, but it doesn't mean that's necessarily the best thing, because there's an unusual pattern that has happened. And again, you can look at the link to see where I've gone into a lot more detail with regards to myocarditis. One of the interesting patterns that they have found is that in this paper here, you can see among the mRNA vaccines, they tended to generate this IgG4 response. You didn't really see it with the adenovirus-based vaccines. Even after until 270 days, uninfected people who had received the adenovirus-based vaccines did not exhibit this IgG4. And IgG4 is primarily a tolerant antibody. So it tells your immune system that it doesn't need to respond to the antigen. Works for beekeepers, but it's not clear if this is necessarily a good thing in the context of COVID-19. And that pattern may explain why virus is circulating in some highly vaccinated regions. Is that primarily to do with the Pfizer and the IgG4? We don't know. But these are the kinds of scientific questions that we need to understand. Additionally, what you're likely to see is that with regards to the slight adjustment to proline, my prediction is that you're more likely to see circulating pieces of the spike protein with the mRNA vaccines because of the adjustments. I suspect it could be making the immune system struggle to break these down. And that's again just my thought looking at the research. So I can't say that this is exactly what's happening. I'm just extrapolating from what they had seen with myocarditis. So again, there's a link down in the description if you wanted to look at it to take a deeper look as to why I thought this would occur with regards to myocarditis. But the point is simple. What we're going to be seeing over the next few years is more and more people who could be having significant morbidity or mortality because we couldn't fully understand the impact of the vaccine in the context of ongoing circulation of the virus. This is where I have a very clear differentiation. I don't think it's just that the vaccine is necessarily causing problems. No, that could partly be a part of the issue. I think it's the combination of vaccine with high circulation of Omicron variants that cause infection. The body can't properly manage this. And then you have this risk of immunity, autoimmune responses that can occur. At the moment, this is still speculation. This is just my research from what I've been following from autoimmunity. I can't say for certain that this will happen, but it does make sense from what I am seeing. But the lawsuits are likely to be just the start. Question is, who has the indemnity? At the moment, it's the pharmaceutical companies. So what it means is that when these lawsuits start to build up, the person who pays will be the ordinary taxpayer because the government will have to pay out for this. That's another thing to consider. And the end of the day, everybody pays. We need to find the answers. It's important for us to be objective. And let's see if we can protect those who have been injured and make sure that we do our utmost to reduce the long-term burden on the population. Have a great evening.